More NBA draft combine takeaways. This time we take a look at Ron Holland. How would he fit with the Charlotte Hornets? Another accomplishment in Brandon Miller's rookie season. And yes, Doug has another mock draft. All today on Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. There's Doug Branson. You can find his work on his substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. There you can also text him. He's got his subtext info there as well. Listen to me, Sports Radio 92.7 WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. via Wes and Walker. Also listen on the WFNZ app. It feels like we're about to just scroll through some of these players that could be there at number 6. Anybody that spoke at the NBA Draft Combine, we are going through their audio. What are some of the comments we like? What are some of the comments we don't like? Well, Ron Holland is up on the list after what we looked at. It was Stephon Castle, some of his comments that were enlightening at the Combine yesterday. And so, first off, before we get to the comments, Doug, what are you liking what you're seeing from Ron Holland as a draft prospect to where maybe he could be that pick at number 6 overall?
I like a lot of what I see from Ron Holland. Am I in love with it? No, but am I in love with any of these players? Not really. I mean, right. I think I'm in like with a lot of these players, and Ron Holland is one of them because he measured 6'6.5" without shoes at the Combine. So those measurements came in at what we thought. Good, decent size for the wing. Has to get a little bit bigger, but decent size for the wing position. And his defensive motor, he just goes like an Energizer bunny. He's crazy. And he's got decent technique on the ball. Off ball is where he really shines defensively. Gathers up a lot of steals, a lot of help side blocks. But just like my vibe check on Ron Holland is very high. Like, I just think he wants to be great.
The vibes are good.
The vibes are really good, man. And honestly, in kind of a weaker draft, I think that should give, have a little bit more, should be given a little bit more credence than maybe in some other years where you're looking at purely what you can see on the tape. Because if we go to the tape in his last season with G League Ignite, you're going to see, wow, he had a lot of turnovers, or wow, he only shot 24% from 3. Stuff that he admits, like, hey, I didn't shoot well before he had his thumb injury, but his team is confident in his shot. He's confident in his shot. And honestly, like, when I look at his shooting, Walker, I get some of the same feelings I had about LaMelo Ball, where I'm like, dude, when this guy gets his feet set and he's got some space, the form looks great and he knocks it down. Where he gets into trouble, or where he got into trouble last season with the Ignite, is that he really was their offense, and the usage numbers show it. Like, he was taking 30-40% of the shots, and a lot of those shots weren't good shots, and that's not going to be his role on the Charlotte Hornets. So I'm actually a little bit higher on the shot. The 24% is bad, but I think it can improve a lot in his first couple of seasons in the league.
Yeah, so if you go over the traditional splits, he's shooting 24% from 3, which is quite bad, on 3.6 attempts per game. He's shooting 44.3% overall from the field. If you look at some of the scoring splits, he took 22.8% of his overall shots from the 3-point line. 59% of his points came at the 2-point range. Not much mid-range to speak of. Only 4.2% of his points came from that mid-range area, which I guess that's nice to see, knowing that he's taking the right shots on at least from the distances.
Look, if they keep Miles Bridges, he's going to have the mid-range pretty much locked down. Nobody's going to get any more mid-range shots than Miles Bridges did last season. But that's not where you want him taking shots. You want him taking shots at the rim where he can highlight that athleticism. He is an explosive athlete. Now, is he on this? Would he have been taken higher if he had gone last season? Would he have been taken higher than the Thompson twins, who are sort of your prototypical athletic, super athletic, uber athletic wing? No, absolutely not. He wasn't getting taken ahead of those guys. But for this crop, he is one of the more explosive athletes.
So, yeah, and just real last stat for me, 55% of his points came in the paint. So that's something that you like from Ron Holland, being able to convert when he gets to the rim. He did speak about his shot. And I actually think he gave us some information that was pretty detailed. It wasn't just vague, I think I can shoot better than what I've shown in the past. Here is Ron Holland talking about why he maybe has struggled with his shot in the last couple of seasons.
My jump shot feels good to me. Obviously, I haven't been really hitting shots like that. Before I got injured, I wasn't really shooting the ball really well. But with my agency, I was definitely working on everything. For my sake, I feel like me not moving the ball too much. If you go back and watch film, when I don't move the ball too much and my feet are set, I have a really pretty good jump shot, and I'm really hitting shots in that moment. So if I can keep that consistent, I feel like I can become a really good shooter.
Exactly. And I'm telling, I went back and watched the tape, and you know that I was on record when we were talking about LaMelo Ball way back in the way back, that I said, look, I get it. His numbers overseas, they were not very good when it came to shooting, but he was doing a lot, and there were moments where you go, okay, no, that shot actually looks a little odd, but it looks good. With Ron Holland, the shot doesn't even look odd. Like, the form looks great. It just didn't go in a lot, and I think a lot of that was due to the fact that he was taking some pretty horrendous shots at times. Now, the playmaking is more of a concern for me, the turnovers. Like, if the ball is going to be in his hands, say on a second unit a lot, can he be responsible with the basketball? Can he decide, hey, I don't need to do as much as I did? Can he turn that thing off? Because the one thing you don't want him to turn off is that energy, is that motor, that it really is his calling card. But honestly, I hope that teams 1 through 5 are sleeping on Ron Holland, because I think this is an opportunity for the Hornets at 6 to pick up a guy who, before that G League season, everybody was thinking Ron Holland number 1.
Ron Holland, he's got some things that you can like about his game for sure, offensively too. Like we went over those numbers inside the paint, but also there's one thing that you think of when you think of Ron Holland, and that's his energy. He even brought that up during the Combine coverage. Doug, play the Ron Holland sound about how his energy is contagious.
I feel like if anybody hears Ron Holland as a name, the word energy has always been around that since I was born. This energy has been me since I was little. I think that has a lot to do with basketball in my aspect, because I feel like energy it literally gets people going. If you're able to get your teammates going, and you have a really good team around you, it's hard. Y'all will be hard to be beat, and I feel like that's one of my qualities, and that also depends on the leadership. I have great leadership qualities. I love to talk. I love to get my teammates going, so I feel like that's also another quality that I have to step into the NBA.
See, that's what I'm saying, Walker. You can't find that in a stat sheet. You can't find came out of the womb, moonwalking, dancing. You can't find that on a stat sheet, my friend. Show me where that is on the stat sheet.
It wasn't in the advanced splits or even splits done like Michael Jackson.
That's right. He was doing splits. I'm telling you, he came out of the womb doing splits. Doctor couldn't even hold on to him.
The hee-hees, can't find him. Don't see anywhere on the stat sheet. Advanced splits, traditional, no matter what. But with Ron Holland and the energy, he's a barker too. And if we talk about how much we love it with Brandon Miller, having him and Ron Holland, like holding guys accountable, maybe defensively, it feels like we're banking with the Stephon Castles and the Ron Hollands of the world. So the guys that, aren't the best shooters. It feels like in an uncertain draft, you're banking on the defensive ability with those two guys. And I'm okay with doing that as we start to dive a little deeper into these guys and how they project as NBA players. It does feel like those are going to be the selling points for each of those players, and then we'll see how it all ends up. But even if there are questions offensively, you certainly like the attitude that each of them can bring.
You're right. He's a barker. He's an attitude guy. I think he's a culture guy. I mean, I look, if he does well in the interviews that he has with the Charlotte Hornets, I mean, he is, other than Klingon, I guess. I mean, Klingon would probably be number 1 on my board. If he falls to the Hornets, I think you got to take him. But other than Klingon, I think Holland is like 1A on my board right now for the Charlotte Hornets. He's one of the really honest. I'll be honest with you, like Klingon and Holland are really the only two guys that I would be excited for the Charlotte Hornets to take at 6. Anyone else, and I'm going to just hope that it turns out well, but honestly, if those two guys aren't available, then I really hope that the Hornets just trade back and maybe pick up Edey, or trade back and look at maybe Cody Williams at 14, 15, pick up some extra assets. But Holland, man, I think he's a guy that you add. He's going to be a great locker room guy. He's going to add to what the Hornets need to define what they are defensively. Ron Holland will help you do that. He's going to be a guy, if nothing else, that is going to be up in dude shirts for 82 games next season. I would be super excited if the Hornets added him.
Yeah, no, I hear you. All right, let's move on. Talk a little bit about a rookie that played this past season for Charlotte. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Yet another accomplishment for Brandon Miller in what was a fantastic first season in the NBA. We'll tell you what it was coming up next here on Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, even more than that. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. More Locked On Hornets ahead. I can't help but acknowledge one that I usually am the guy that's hosting the show from a bunch of different locations. You'll bebop around a little bit, but it feels like you just went to the swamps of the deep south with the cicadas, just wanting to be a part of this podcast as much as possible outside of your window.
Yeah, I don't know how much of this the audience can actually hear. It is piercing my ears. The cicadas here in Nashville, Tennessee, they are out of control. I read that people who are outside where there are a lot of cicadas for like more than 15 or 20 minutes should wear hearing protection. It like sets off the decibel meters, and they should wear hearing protection because it is so loud. They are screaming. It sounds like my soul in response to the Hornets not winning a playoff series in more than 21 years. But I'm going to apologize for the cicadas, although I will say that Ron Holland, a lot of people are saying, oh, he has like Jaylen Brown potential. They're doing the player comps as we often like to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to say he has cicada potential because I was biking home the other day. I was sitting at a stoplight and a cicada just it didn't ask permission, got up into my personal space, flew into my hair, and I'm like sitting there at the stoplight, like, get out of my hair. That's what Ron Holland, when I watch Ron Holland's tape, that's what he does to opposing offensive players. He's like a cicada. Doesn't ask permission, gets in your shirt, bothers you at a stoplight. That's Ron Holland.
You only find players like Ron Holland every 7 to 17 years, depending on what brood you're talking about.
That's right.
That's about it. Ron Holland's rare, okay? Rare. One of one. Okay, speaking of rare, man, we got one of those rookies last year with the Hornets, and it just so happened to happen in a year where there was another alien playing as a rookie with Victor Wembanyama. We knew Brandon Miller was not going to win Rookie of the Year or even get into second place because that also belonged to Chet Holmgren. That spot did. But he was at least the third best rookie, despite what ESPN articles would have talked about really going in right after the regular season. Brandon Miller got another piece of hardware here, Doug. The NBA announced today that Brandon Miller was selected to the all-rookie first team alongside Chet Holmgren, Jaime Jaquez, Brandon Pajemski, and, of course, Victor Wembanyama. He was a three-time Eastern Conference Rookie of the Month honoree, and he is the sixth Hornet to earn an all-rookie first-team nod, along with LaMelo, Kendall Gill, Larry Johnson, Alonzo Mourning, and also Emeka Okafor. Very cool. The last piece of hardware, I think, for Brandon Miller in his first season in the NBA. Much deserved spot on the first team all-rookie squad. Anything other than that would have not been justifiable.
No, but what's also not justifiable is that there was one voter of the 99 voters that did not vote for Brandon in the second team. Like, all of them voted Jaime either first or second. There were a few that left Brandon Pajemski off the list, but there was one person. And if it's Bobby Marks, I'm going to go nuts. Next time you have Bobby on the show, we need to confirm because who was he with? He was on with someone, ESPN.
It was Kevin Pelton. Excuse me, can't even get the name out. And it was those two. I do think they had him in the second team, but they had him as like fourth, fifth, sixth in that range. So they had him in the second team, but it wasn't great even still. We weren't happy with where they put Brandon.
It's crazy. It's not crazy. It's not even shocking. It's not even surprising. But it just, the first thing I thought was it's crazy because the Hornets have not had a first-team all-rookie member since 2004 and 2005, since Emeka Okafor. Had a lot of second teams, and in fact, I've got a few treats for you.
Well, LaMelo LaMelo was
before
first team
Mehl,
all-rookie.
exactly. Before Mehl, yes. So, but the gap, I guess that's the crazy part, is the gap between LaMelo Ball.
Yeah.
Now that they've had three drafts now, and LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, you get 2 first team after that huge gap. That's crazy to me. But I've got a few treats for you with this All-NBA rookie selection. I was doing a little research on this, and the Hornets have had a number of second-team members, and I was wondering if you could name some of them. Could you name some of the second-team All-Rookies?
Okay, I like this game. All right, second-team All-Rookie members. I'll put Baron Davis at the top of that list.
Baron Davis was not.
Ooh, I'd be surprised.
Was not, because
he
remember
not?
he came off the bench that rookie year. Remember?
I still would have thought maybe. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Silas
Silas
had his thumb on Baron Davis early on. Didn't let him get off the bench.
Okay, what about like Raymond Felton?
Raymond Felton.
Was he
ding,
second
ding, ding.
team? Okay, Raymond Felton was on that list. Now I feel terrible. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get some of the other ones. In recent memory, was PJ? I think PJ got second team All-Rookie.
PJ got second team All-Rookie. Cody Zeller, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, DJ Augustine. Adam Morrison was a second team member. Also a second team member. You will never get this one. It's another. Well, I maybe just saying never get it. I may have given it away, but there's one second teamer on here that I don't think anyone is going to get.
Yeah, I'll spare you. Even if I were to get it right, it would spoil the game. So what is it? Who's the guy?
2006, 2007, same year that Adam Morrison got second team All-Rookie.
Oh, is
Walter
it a Johnson?
Herman.
Or a Jinsa?
No, Walter Herman, the long hair. In 2006, 2007, Walter Herman got into a tie with Rajon Rondo of the Boston Celtics for second team All-Rookie. He joined, future Bobcat. By that, it would have been a future Bobcat. Tyrus Thomas, Craig Smith, and Paul Millsap on the second team. First team that year was Bargnani, Foy, Rudy Gay, Brandon Roy, who was Rookie of the Year by I think only one person didn't vote him top Rookie of the Year. Herman actually got enough. He was top 10 Rookie of the Year. He got like 5 votes for some, not first place, but he got 5 Rookie of the Year votes and was 10th in Rookie of the Year voting. So there's all your Walter Herman knowledge for the day.
No, I want that thing. I want more, to be honest with you.
I can give you his averages. He played in 48 games. He started 12 games his rookie season. He shot 53% from the field. He shot 46% from 3 on 2.5 attempts. I mean, those would have been decent 90s numbers. 9.2 points per game, 3 rebounds per game, half a steal, half an assist. Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
Walter Herman.
I did not expect Walter Herman stories, but I'm here for them, and I'm glad that he was a part of our show today. All right, let's move on. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Who could be the next Walter Herman for the Charlotte Hornets? We'll get to that in just a moment via mock drafts because, of course, Doug has them in leaps and bounds. He's got a million of them. So he brings another one to the table in the final segment of Locked On Hornets. Before we get to the mock draft, I want to tell you this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You can get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during the NBA postseason. Prize Picks has something for every sports fan, from basketball and hockey to League of Legends and everything in between. You can pick LeBron, Caitlin Clark, Connor McDavid, and Jude Bellingham all in the same entry. Go to prizepicks.com, download the app today, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Download the app today again and use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. More Locked On Hornets coming up next. All right, we kind of played trivia the last segment, but it was going to be too daunting to try to list all the second team, all rookies. You have more trivia for me, though, Doug?
Yeah, because, to do that research, I had to go and look at the media guide for the Charlotte Hornets, and so a couple of other things piqued my interest here. There's only been one coach in Charlotte Hornets history that has won Coach of the Month twice.
Okay.
Who is it?
I mean, if you were looking at that time, is it Larry Brown?
Larry Brown has won it once, January of 2010.
Okay. Could Steve? Maybe it's Steve Clifford.
It's Steve Clifford. You're correct.
Okay.
April of 2014, and then won it in March of 2016. It is. We should note that March and April, those late seasons, that's when those teams of his would make that just miraculous push that would get them either into the playoffs in that 14 season or in 16 that almost vaulted them, thanks to the P.J. Hairston trade, almost vaulted them into like the third seed.
Yes, I know. Hilarious.
Okay,
it's so funny that we came across that last year.
Yeah. One more trivia piece. Player of the month. There have only been three players of the month in Charlotte Hornets history. Can you name any of them?
Well, I think LaMelo is one of them.
He is not.
Is LaMelo? He is not. Okay, so Kemba during the I remember he was.
He is not.
Not Kemba. God. All right, player of the month. Then now I got to go to the legends. Like I'm gonna go with the classic. What? Alonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson. I'll throw those names out there.
Wrong. You still have it. It's like sinking a battleship. This is amazing.
Oh no.
Let me give it to you. Let me give you the list. Glenn Rice.
Let me get one more guess.
Okay.
Okay, Glenn Rice makes sense. Let me get one more. What about Eddie Jones? That's the last one I'll give to you.
Wrong.
Can't get one. All right, who are the next two?
Glenn Rice in February of 1997 won Player of the Month. Jamal Mashburn. Mash won it in March of 2002. Oh, that's as late as you could win it as a member of the Charlotte Hornets. Almost. I guess you could have won it in April. And then finally, the only player in Charlotte franchise history to win Player of the Month 2 times, that goes to Al Jefferson, who won it in consecutive months,
Damn.
March and April of 2014. Al Jefferson, the only. So that's, to me, Walker, that's when you know that things are different in Hornets land. When a Hornet player wins Player of the Month, that's when you know, okay, something smells different in Charlotte Hornets land.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're right. As far the reason the Steve Clifford one came to mind was because of the late pushes that they made, because they went on some crazy months in order to get back to the postseason and even climb the standings. And so I guess what year was it? Is that the year that Al Jefferson would have helped them? Was it 2016?
It was 2014 is when he won it's the year he won the All-NBA honors.
So, okay, right. Which makes sense. So, yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that, I guess it would be tough to compete with all the centers at that time if you're Alonzo. Like, maybe I could have seen Larry Johnson, take hold of one of those awards. I thought maybe LaMelo would have gotten one. So, yeah, all right. Didn't happen. I failed at trivia. I did okay with Steve Clifford. And then with the players of the month, I got absolutely destroyed. Let's go to your mock draft, Doug. Who do you have for us today?
And nobody should make fun of you for that, because you are naming names that absolutely – I can't believe Kemba wasn't on the list. You were naming names that absolutely – that's why I brought that up, because it was so strange to me. Only 3, and that Al's the only one to do it twice.
Well, the Kemba one, I thought the November where he scored 60 points, he was a topic on Around the Horn. And I remember the topic being, can somebody win an MVP while playing for a team as terrible as the Charlotte Hornets? That was the topic on an ESPN afternoon sports debate show. And I thought maybe it was November in the Eastern Conference, but even Kemba couldn't do it.
Okay, let's go to atthehive.com. Our good friends over there, they've separated from SB Nation. They're now out on their own, and Chase Whitney has a NBA mock draft for us. Sarr goes first, Topic goes second, Klingon goes third, Dillingham's off the board, Risa Shea goes off the board to the Pistons at 5, and finally at 6, they're taking the guy that we talked about in the first segment, Ron Holland II. Don't forget the double sticks from the G League Ignite. Chase Whitney writes, I don't know if this is the best case scenario for Charlotte with Klingon and Risa Shea off the board, but in the highly unlikely event the draft falls this way next month, Jeff Peterson and the new Hornets front office have plenty of good options at 6. My personal preferences for this pick aren't really individual players, but more so player archetypes. Ideally, Charlotte takes a wing with size, a shooting projection, and switchable defense. And honestly, Walker, that's other than the shooting projection. I mean, that's a lot, Ron Holland.
Yeah, the archetype for Ron Holland, if you're looking for athleticism and just positional size, this is where Ron Holland comes into play. Because we were talking about it on Wes and Walker, Doug. This is a tricky draft, and it's not even tricky because of the lackluster talent. It's tricky in the sense that nobody is like a seamless fit where, okay, I know we shouldn't be drafting off of fit. It's obviously something that, even if it's intrusive, it's something that's always in the back of your mind. You don't want to just draft 5 centers in a row. You would like to have, because if that was the case, fit really doesn't matter. You're not drafting 5 centers in a row, right? You're just not doing it. So we have to figure out somebody that seemingly can play alongside Brandon Miller. Hopefully can play alongside LaMelo. Sure, you got to have insurance and there's the nuances of it. But when it comes to Reed Shepherd, yeah, goodness gracious, 42-inch vert, great three-point shooting, but he's small. Stephon Castle, but he can't shoot very well and he wants to play point guard. But Ron Holland can't shoot very well, and I'm not sure about his playmaking. Donovan Klingon plays the same position as the guy that we drafted a couple years ago who we like, but also is injured. It's a tricky draft for Jeff Peterson to navigate in his first ever draft, calling the shots with the Hornets. And if you're just looking for archetypes, such as Chase Whitney is talking about, maybe Ron Holland is the guy. You can't go wrong with positional size and high motor. At least he's going to give himself every single shot to work out in the NBA. And if the shooting comes along, then that's a great bonus. But if that's what you fall back on, then I think there are worse things to fall back on if you're the Hornets or if you're any team.
If you're Jeff Peterson, you are in such a great position because Hornets fans right now, they're coming off the high of LaMelo Ball and even really, I mean, Mark Williams, with the injury, yes, it's tough, but you've seen flashes where you go, ooh, this could really work out. And then, of course, Brandon Miller, first-team All-Rookie, he's looking excellent, looking like a future All-NBA prospect. So there's not that sort of desperation from Hornets fans to nail this draft. Everybody, obviously, you want to come away with a great player. You're not going to know if you have anything probably for a few years from now. But for Peterson, like, there's not that desperation for, to come away from this draft with, like, a star player. And also, this is such a weak draft, and that narrative is there. It's going to protect, I think, even if a pick doesn't work out. What are we going to say a couple of years from now? We're going to say, well, that every draft's a crapshoot, but this one was particularly a shot in the dark.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen once we get there. Like, to me, I hear what you're saying. It does not matter. We throw all that out the window and we start to use everything we can to construct a narrative of why we like someone or why we don't. And if the Hornets still are not performing to the level of expectation, we're going to go back to this draft because somebody's going to hit that was taken after who they selected 6. Somebody's going to be a good player. And if the Hornets don't land with that selection, people are going to look back at this draft a couple of years from now and say, well, the Hornets passed up on player X, and Jeff Peterson is going to be at the helm of that. And even if it's Rick Schnall or Gabe Plotkin, it doesn't matter because they can't get fired. So it feels like one of those things, Doug. I hear what you're saying. It feels like one of those things where you stub your toe and then it takes a little while for it to start hurting. But once it hurts, boy, oh boy, you're shouting the expletives. It feels like it'll take a while to hurt. But if you do stub your toe, people are going to remind you of the pain that it caused.
No, that's fair. But look, if it's a point guard that does it, if it's Dillingham and I know Shepherd isn't a point guard, but he's an undersized guard. If it's one of those guys, I'll just say from my perspective, I'm not going to punish Peterson for not looking at that player when you have LaMelo Ball, even with the injury concerns, because look, you're about to pay this guy a lot of money. Like you gotta give him every opportunity to succeed, because if he succeeds, your franchise succeeds, and if he doesn't, your franchise is set back for a few years. So I would now if it's a center, if they pass on, if Klingon for some reason falls and they pass on him, or if they trade back and they pass on Edey, then I'm going to be like,
never pans out. Yeah.
Yeah. Then I'm going to be like, okay, what's going on here? That I think would be a mark on them. But yeah, I just do think that now the other thing too is, Walker, if they go through this draft and they select a player and that player doesn't work out and they don't utilize the trade market and they don't utilize the free agency market to improve this team in a serious way. I'm not talking about the bargain bin shopping that Mitch Kupchak and company did, going to the Walmart $5 DVD bin for your point guard depth. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about legitimately being a player in the market for other teams' assets. If they're not improving in that way, then I think,
Sure.
all bets are off. Blame them completely for the draft.
All right, that'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube. Again, go check out Doug's Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. He loves the Hornets so much, he's getting other bugs to be involved with the podcast. You can also
There are no
find
cicadas. There is not
Subtext.
everycicada.com. There are no cicadas on everyhornetsboxscore.com.
They do write when Doug takes time off, though. They do help out a little bit. Subtext info is also there. That's what they say. It's a great article. Click on it. It's everyhornetsboxscore.com. And also listen to me on the radio, Sports Radio 92.7 WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow with more Draft Combine audio.